Hello, hello. Thank you guys so much for allowing me to be here and be your clinician for the ranch riding Ride the Pattern. I attended my first AQHYA Youth World in 1992, and in 1996 I had the pleasure of being a reserve world champion in the youth reining. So that dates me, that makes me very old at this point, but I said all that to say that this horse show has a special place in my heart, and it's always a pleasure to be here and to be able to participate in a world championship class, specifically one this year that is having the 50th anniversary. So thank you guys for letting me join you, and I'm going to run through all three of the ranch riding patterns that are going to show tomorrow, and I'm going to try not to confuse myself or confuse you. So I'm going to cheat off my cell phone and make sure, especially for this first pattern, the Champion of Champions pattern, that I give you correct information, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys have. We're going to do the 13 and under pattern next, and then we'll finish up with the 14 through 18 pattern. So what I'm going to do to start with, this Champion of Champions pattern is a custom pattern. You won't find it in the AQHA rulebook. So I'm going to just kind of walk through this slowly, and we're going to talk through it a little bit, and then I'll try to demonstrate it at regular speed, and then we'll answer any questions you guys might have, and then once we conclude that, we'll roll into the 13 and under pattern, which is AQHA pattern number 1, I believe. We'll finish up with the 14 through 18 pattern, which is pattern number 3. So, getting right into it, our first maneuver for the Champion of Champions level 1 pattern is going to be the walk. And the way they have this pattern drawn, it looks like they've got you starting basically somewhere over in this general vicinity. I don't know if they'll have you start from a standstill or if you'll just walk in through the gate, but either way, your first maneuver will be the walk. And we're going to just kind of walk through this slow. And like I said, then we'll try to go through it at regular speed. Somewhere in this area, it looks like to me they're asking you guys to do the second maneuver of this pattern, which is the extended trot. I'm just kind of going to jog it for right now so that you can get a feel for how this pattern lays out. I would probably be a little closer to this wall over here. The judges, I assume, are going to be sitting across the arena from where you guys are right now. This would ordinarily be the extended trot according to this pattern. And it looks like to me somewhere in this vicinity right here, they've got you doing the downward transition to a regular jog. And you're just going to trot a nice forward moving, ground covering trot around this planter right here. And the way I interpret the pattern is right about this area right here, you're going to pick up the lope. And it's going to be the right lead lope. Okay, it'll be a regular lope here, and then somewhere in this area they've got you extended the lope. Okay, it looks like to me the way the pattern is drawn, you're going to steer around here and come across on somewhat of a diagonal. Now because I've got to do 3 patterns in a row on this horse, I'm going to let him do the simple lead change, but you're going to go from the extended lope to the collected lope for a couple strides, and then you're going to do either the flying or the simple lead change somewhere in this area as I interpret it. After that lead change, you'll be on the left lead. You'll continue towards this corner, I think, and then you'll steer around, come down this line again. I'm going to stay out the wall so you guys can kind of see me. And then it looks like to me the way the pattern is drawn, somewhere in this area between this orange stripe that you guys maybe can't see, but it is right in front of the Get That Globe banner over here. And then there's another orange stripe on the wall between a Smart Pack and a Farnham banner. Somewhere in here you're going to make this turn, okay? And you're going to lope a couple strides maybe, and then you're going to break to the trot. You're going to trot straight forward. Do a couple of square corners and trot a square. Stop somewhere in this general vicinity. Okay, and then they've got you doing, I think it says 450 degrees, but it's 1 1/4 turns to the left. They'll turn, stop, and then the final maneuver of this pattern is to walk, stop, and back. Okay, any questions about all that so far? None? All right. I'm going to attempt to do this pattern at regular speed real quick if I can. I'm pretty good at making myself look stupid, and I'm not very athletic, so I'm going to try to hold this microphone and the romells at the same time and see if I can't pull this pattern off at somewhat of the type of speed that you would be doing it if you were going to go show it. So here we go. Trot. Thank you, guys. Okay, can I answer any questions about this custom pattern that you guys are going to be required to perform for the Champion of Champions? Uh-oh.
So you think it rides better in coming, because it looked like the second time you came more on a straight line up the middle that changed, or I mean from this angle it looked like that rather than on a diagonal. With that, do you think that it rides a little better that way?
I think that you should lay your pattern out based on how you think your horse will perform the pattern the best. I think that for me personally, I like the way it laid out a little better the second time. You know, it's not a true diagonal when you look at the pattern. It is angled a little bit, but it's not the same type of diagonal as you see in some of our other standard patterns. So, you know, I always like to do the pattern as close to the way it's described and drawn as possible. But as you well know, it does say on the page that you should, you know, utilize the arena space to the best of your ability and in whatever manner allows you to complete the pattern and show your horse off best to the judges. I think for me, you know, it allows me a little bit more room there to make that left turn. You know, now I did not go as close to the wall over here as maybe I might have if I was showing it, but if I wanted to maintain that same depth away from this wall, I would probably try to execute the pattern the way I did it, you know, the second time. Having said that, again, if you guys have a trainer, you should defer to your trainer and always do what, you know, you and your trainer think is going to allow you to show your horse off best. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
When you're looking at your transitions, such as when you do your turns and then you go out, is it better to make it like one fluid movement and not have a lot of hesitation between transitions? What are they looking for?
So the question is, when you execute the turns and then go to do your next maneuver, which is the walk before you're stopping back, her question is it better to hesitate before you walk, or is it better to make that one fluid motion. Again, not to be ambiguous, I think that depends on your horse, and I think that depends on what will allow you to be mistake-free in this pattern. And that's the thing that I always preach to, my non-pros, my amateurs, my youth riders. You can't win anything taking a penalty. So as an example, if my horse wants to anticipate a little bit and I do that turn and try to go right into that walk and they pick up the trot or take a lope step, it wasn't worth trying to do it that way, right? But if I throw in a slight hesitation and that allows them, the rider or the horse to sort of gather their thoughts or take a breath for a moment and then, launch into that walk and they can stay clean, then that to me is the smarter way to do it. I think that if you are confident in that, segue right there, in that transition, if you can pull that off, that turn and walk out and it's fluid and it's correct and it looks nice, then I think there are certainly some judges who are going to appreciate that and consider that a higher degree of difficulty. But that is a very subjective opinion depending on the judge, in my experience. Any other questions? All right. Let's talk about the 13 and under pattern. Our 13 and under pattern for tomorrow is AQHA pattern number 1. Okay. And I'm just going to kind of do the same thing as I did with the Champion of Champions pattern. I'm going to go through it slow first. We're going to talk about a couple things that I see that I would be aware of, and then we're going to go ahead and try to execute it a little closer to maybe the speed that we would want to show it. Okay, pattern number 1, the way it's drawn on the page, has us entering the gate at a walk and bearing to our right. The next maneuver coming up is going to be our trot. And the way I interpret this pattern is that we're going to walk with a ground covering stride past this corner until we get straight. And then somewhere in this vicinity, I would probably choose to pick up the trot if it were me. A nice cadence, 2-beat, forward moving trot. Okay. In this area right here, I'm going to go ahead and extend the trot. And our next maneuver is going to be one turn to the left. We're going to stop here, go ahead and turn, and then lope off. Okay, again, right here, because we have to come across on the diagonal, I'm not going to do the flying lead change because I don't want this horse to learn to anticipate. Okay, I'm going to do the simple lead change, but of course you are more than welcome to do the flying lead change if that's what you want. Right in this area, I think we're going to try to extend the lope, and to me it's going to be somewhere around where this open gate is. Okay, let's start to extend. We're going to extend past these logs down this line. Somewhere in here, I'm going to slow down. Okay. I'm going to loop back around, and I'm going to be looking for my spot where we're going to execute our transition from the right lead lope to the extended trot, which for me is going to be right in here somewhere. Oop, if I can get my horse to trot. Let's reset on that. Okay. So we'll be at the regular lope. Okay, we're going to extend the trot. We're going to make a left turn here, break down from the extended trot to the walk. Over these walk logs, continue to walk. Stop and back again. Okay. Pretty straightforward. Does anybody have any questions I can answer about that so far? All right, let's give it a shot. Okay, who has questions about that pattern? Yes, sir.
Is the pattern changed? This pattern shows that you don't go at an angle through the middle. It's a trot stand with your lead change.
Oh, for your lead change, you mean? Okay, so yes, you're right. The way the pattern is drawn, it is not a true diagonal. So I might have misled you a little bit on that part. I think that, you know, the idea is that it's not probably a true circle either, but the way it's drawn, it is more squared off than the way I executed it. So, you know, you should do the pattern, in my opinion, as closely to the way it's drawn, you know, but I do think that there is some leeway in there depending on, you know, where you're gonna, what's gonna allow your horse to perform the maneuver the best. Should I do it again correctly? I feel like I should get off and do push-ups and then do it again. So, they took my logs. So, yeah, they should never assume that. Okay, aside from the fact that I screwed it up the first time, are there any other questions? Okay, if not, then we'll continue on with AQHA pattern 3, which is our 14 through 18 pattern for tomorrow. Okay, and this pattern again has us starting off at the walk. We're probably going to, I would think, enter the arena and wait for our judges to flag us from somewhere in this general vicinity. Typically, that's what they do. Okay, so for this pattern, we're going to go ahead and walk. Again, a ground covering stride. Okay, somewhere in this area, I'm going to pick up the trot. Okay, and I'm going to make some square turns or a serpentine. Okay, these logs are set pretty far to the inside of the arena, but again, your judges are going to be sitting, this side of the arena most likely, and they are going to want to be able to see you. So I'm not sure tomorrow that those logs will be quite that far in, although they very well could. Okay, and that's to allow the judges, the opportunity to view your pattern and make sure that that they can, have ample opportunity to see you. In any pattern, ranch riding pattern, if you're too close to the wall and the judges are sitting up here in a position like this, it's really hard for them to be able to view you. So you want to make sure that even if you don't have a barricade or an obstacle that forces you to the interior part of the arena, then in a situation like this, you do give the judges, ample opportunity to view you and your horse as you execute the pattern. I'll go back and do that little serpentine again. Okay, after our serpentine, we're going to pick up the left lead lope. Again, lead change, either flying or simple. For me, it's going to be a simple in this situation because this horse we don't want him to learn to anticipate, but you absolutely should do the flying lead change if that's what you feel comfortable with. Okay, now I'm going to stop right here for a second because I want to address something. To me, this is about to be the toughest transition in a ranch riding pattern. So the pattern calls for us to turn this corner, get straight, extend the lope, and then somewhere around that gate where it hinges down there, execute an extended lope to extended trot transition. That is a very, very challenging maneuver in the ranch riding. Okay, and there are going to be a lot of horses that have difficulty executing that transition in that exact spot. So what I would encourage you to do as exhibitors is to really plan ahead and have a very solid idea of where you want to ask for that transition in order to try to execute it as the pattern is drawn. This arena is oval shaped, and that means that that spot where they're asking you to execute that transition is going to come at you very fast. Okay? A lot of horses, when they extend the lope and you ask them to go around that end of the arena, are going to want to drop that shoulder, and before you know it, the center of that wall down there is going to be upon you. So what I have encouraged all of my riders to do is to ask for that transition a little earlier than the spot at which it's expected to be executed via the pattern. Okay, so again, this is my personal opinion. You guys should absolutely do what's best for you and your horse, or what your trainer recommends if you have one. But for me, I'm going to ask for that transition a little earlier, okay? And I might even allow my horse, okay, to not slow down, but just not carry quite so much speed around that corner in order to execute that transition more properly. Now, if you have confidence in your horse and you have confidence in your ability to execute that transition and you pull it off at a high degree of difficulty, I applaud you all day long, and I think that that's what we should all aim for. Having said that, I always encourage my riders to stay clean and correct and out of the penalty box before they execute at a high degree of difficulty, okay? My personal philosophy is that horse showing is risk reward, okay? And so if you are willing to risk that and it pays off, you should reap the reward. If you risk that transition and it doesn't happen because your horse is anticipating, because you're experiencing anxiety, adrenaline, whatever, and your horse doesn't respond, or God forbid you have a penalty or a break of gait, okay, then you're going to regret having tried it, okay? So again, this is my personal opinion. You should absolutely do what is in, you feel like is in your best interest and your comfort zone. But for me personally, if I'm showing this pattern tomorrow, I'm going to be a little more conservative in this situation to make sure I get this transition as clean and correct as possible. What that means is that I'm going to turn this corner, okay, and I'm going to go ahead and extend. And I may not extend as much as I ordinarily would because I know that transition's coming. But even if I do, I'm going to ask this horse to trot earlier than I normally would, because I know that I don't want that horse to misread me, or I don't want momentum to carry me past that gate and around that corner, okay? I would much rather be conservative, or at least back off a little bit, and instead of being a +1.5 or a +1, take my half, take my 0, and then go make my points up somewhere else. That, again, my personal philosophy. We'll try it one more time, and I'll see if I can explain it differently. But after our lead change, we'll lope across here. This time it is a diagonal. Okay, I'll turn this corner and get straight. Then I'm going to go ahead and extend. Might ease off right here, but right where this gate is, right here to my left, this gate that goes up in, this door that goes up into the stands, that's where I'm going to ask for my trot transition. Because I assume that by the time this horse responds to it, I'm going to be somewhere in the general vicinity of where it's drawn on the page. Now, it varies from horse to horse, and if I really feel confident in my horse and my preparation where we're at, then maybe I won't do that. But I think in this situation, because again, it is the toughest transition in ranch riding, I think I'm going to start asking for that trot just a little sooner. Trot. Okay, going back to our pattern, we're supposed to be extending the trot right here. We're going to turn this corner at the extended trot, do a downward transition to a regular trot. Trot over those logs, stop. Pattern says one turn each direction, either way first. Walk forward, stop and back. Okay, any questions about what I just said, or this pattern in general? Okay, I'll try it one more time at something a little closer to the speed at which we might want to show it. Okay, one last opportunity for questions, comments, concerns. All right, well, thank you guys very, very much for letting me ramble on. I appreciate you guys. Good luck tomorrow. Show smart. Have fun.